talking about list of virtues that Paul is saying that we need to have and excel in. We talked about what's the first virtue? Giving, virtue of giving. Second? Yeah, endurance, okay. Faith or faithfulness. What else? What? Speech, the way we talk. Okay, then knowledge, application of knowledge. What else? Endurance. What? Diligence. What else? Love. Okay? Well, all of those things. Speech. We talked about it this morning. Now let's talk about another set of virtues that is more spiritual. Not that the others are less, but this is called just the fruit of the Spirit. I will not really explain this because I think that's what you're handling in the Sunday school classes that you have. Let me just read this to you. But the fruit of the Spirit in Galatians 5:22. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control. Against such things there is no law. And again, we were emphasizing this morning that this is a fruit, not fruits. Meaning, the moment you receive Christ as your Savior and the Holy Spirit came into your life, they start maturing. It's up to us whether we will excel in them. Now, there are certain virtues or qualities, meritorious qualities, that you will begin to find developing in your life. Some people will insult it. And the moment they insult it, we tend to pull back and withdraw from it. Like, depending on the culture, if you begin to say, well, this guy is a very gentleman. He listens to his wife. For some people, it will be offensive. And so they will begin to be rude to their wives. They back off. Some people back off from the virtues that they were developing. So let's talk about the virtues now that we use in dealing with each other. Of course, the others we deal with each other, but this is more concentrated. Let's turn to Philippians chapter 4. Philippians chapter 4. Starting on verse 8. Finally, say finally. When you say finally, what does it mean? The end, to which nothing follows. This in Philippi. Finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is of good repute, if there is any excellence and anything worthy of praise, dwell on these things. The things you have learned and received and heard and seen in me, practice these things, and the God of peace will be with you. Remember when we were reading 2 Corinthians earlier this morning, how endurance in REB has a colon, and after endurance, faith, knowledge, and all of in beatings, in times of afflictions. I'm sorry, I was quoting different verse. And so endurance is actually the virtue. Here, the virtue is right mind. Thinking right thoughts is a virtue. One of the most private things that you and I can have are our thoughts. Nobody can know it. I mean, you don't know what I'm thinking. I do not know what you're thinking. Okay? Unless I reveal it. The only personalities privileged in knowing my thoughts, number one, is me. Number two is God. Because God knows our thoughts before we even think it. But here, one of the most important virtue that we need to develop or mature or excel in is a virtuous mind or virtuous thinking. And we ignore it most of the time because of its privacy. Now, in the NASB, it translates, dwell on these things. We dwell, you and I, we dwell within the confines, within the contents of our mind. And this is most personal. You know? That's why have you heard of the term daydreaming? You know? You could be here and your mind is somewhere else. You can be listening to a pastor like me preaching, and you're looking, maybe even smiling, but your mind is somewhere else. You see, because it's very private, nobody will know. And you can even say amen while disagreeing. Because nobody knows, it's very private. And your mind dwells in it. Now, the word dwell is very important. Because when you talk about where your mind dwells or spend time in, not only is it private, it is very personal, your choice. Now, this is in the imperative mood. Your thoughts must continually dwell in it. A virtuous mind is disciplined. It's almost a one-track mind. You say, this is what I will process, and I will continue to process. RSB, keep this in your mind, or think about these things. Paul wants us to make this subject of our reflection or meditation, because what you are thinking will shape your conduct. It will transform your actions. These are not only good to the head. When you start really thinking on something, inevitably you will live it. You can't say, I'm just thinking about it. The moment you start thinking about it, you will literally live it. So you'll say, why are people doing things like that? That's the subject of their mind. This week, we were shocked by this another rampage in a high school in Florida. 17 people dead. Okay? And the shooter is posting online pictures of him with guns, and how he was beginning to say that there's an email that he will be a super school shooter, something like that. This is what he has been dwelling in. It preoccupies his mind. That became his world. That's why, unless our minds are virtuous, it will be influenced. The thing that the media and everybody else around us is trying to influence is the way we are thinking. And I'm telling you, the way the mass media is shaping our thought life is something else. I was having that discussion with Pastor Gino right now, and he was asking me, what do you think should happen? I said, I think there should be a third or a fourth party in the U.S. politics. I think this nonsense of Democratic and Republican Party is a lot of garbage. Because the way they think is so ingrained, they are dwelling in it. Whenever I hear right now, both on the Democratic and the Republican side interview, these are like, how do you call it, bird that repeats the statement? Parrot, there's another term. Parakeets. Parakeets? Yeah. Parang ganun nga, parakeet. Yeah. 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 I mean, the same talking points. You are looking, listen to me, observe this. You are looking at robots. They never change the way they say things. These are just like robots. They don't know how to think anymore on both sides. Like, you cannot change them because it has dominated their thinking. The thought process is no longer virtuous. You know, the thought process is no longer virtuous. Now, in the church, it's the same. There are certain thought processes that have been void of virtue. Now, what you keep in your head will transform your action. Okay? If you start thinking trouble in your life, in your family, you will begin to act on it. There is no alternative course unless you change the way you think. Yeah. James puts it this way. When you're talking about sin, you don't just act on it. First, you conceive it. Then because you become pregnant with it. Your mind becomes pregnant with it until I can tell what my wife is thinking, and I have to stop her a lot of times. I can There is no hiding of what she is thinking and what she will be doing next. Because we will be having breakfast, we will be shopping, we will be doing things, and the same thing will just keep coming up of her lips. And I will begin to tell her, would you please just shut up? I said, because the more you talk about something, the more you will no longer be in tune to the Spirit of God. There is a virtue in silence, wherein, especially if you don't know what you're about to do, you just shut up. Because you cannot possibly listen to the Spirit of the Lord and at the same time talk. You know? Now, what are virtues? Thoughts. Whatever is, number one, this is how we will shape the way we think. What should be our thought processes? Number one, whatever is true. That is true. Whatever is true is the first one. This is a virtuous mind. Whatever is true, this is more than truthfulness in speech. When you say something is true, sincere. Whatever is sincere, that can translate into an attitudinal change and action change. Think on these things. Whatever is true. Okay, whatever is true. For example, you're gonna go to work. Somebody told you the boss is bad, the company is going down, and this become negative thoughts. Well, that will not be a good way to start work. You're going to a work wherein you have a bad boss and the company is going down. You think you will be motivated to work hard? No, you also, whatever is true, be sincere with your thoughts. Because when you say, I will be sincere with my thoughts, I will be sincere with my actions. Okay? Hey, sister, I need help. Now, whatever is true, right? Now, don't just say, I'll help you, without processing what it means, I'll help you. Because what it means is her behavior changed. Maybe she doesn't like to hate me. Maybe she hates my guts. But because we are in the same church, she felt obliged to say, I will help you. She doesn't mean it. And too many of us are doing that. Hey, can you help? Yes, actually you have no intention of helping. You're just being polite. That is a bad way of thinking. It's not virtuous. A virtuous thought process is, I will help and I will change my attitude even if I don't like you. I'll change my attitude and my action will change. You can express whatever is true in a negative way. You can express it this way. True is that which there is nothing false. That's a negative way of expressing it. True, there is absolutely nothing false. Okay. What if you are conversing with somebody and say, and we say this out of insincerity and just to look good. Hey, if you see something wrong about me, please say it. Oh, that's one of the traps of the devil. Try to say it. See what happens. That's really one. I have talked to people that tells me repeatedly, hey, Pastor, say whatever it is that you see in me, please tell me. So I go, you have to check it. Hey, listen, brother, I think you're very soft on this area. Immediately the attitude changes. Why? Because they are saying things that are not sincere. You see? We are saying, you can correct me so we will look good. But the moment you correct, they'll fight you. Why? It's void of sincerity. What Paul is saying is this one. Before you allow words to come out of your lips, let it be processed with truth in your head. Because it will change the way you behave, attitude, and the way you act. Okay? And this is basically what we have as a problem. Lack of sincerity. You can see it everywhere among politicians, among families, among schools, you know. You can see it everywhere. There is this commercial. I don't know what the commercial is. It's about, it's a folk, it's a group. Somebody says, you're Pinocchio. Says AT&T charges this for, you know that commercial? What was that commercial? Is that Xfinity? That's Xfinity. Yeah. Now I forgot what I was going to say about that. There is something, there's a line there that speaks about this. But it's actually talking about, you are saying you're going to have the highest speed, but actually, look at our commercialism, the way we promote things. There's just no truth. This is the best. How many have you tried? This is the only one I tried because this is the best. You're a liar. How can that be the best if you have never tried anything? This is the best spaghetti. You know, my wife cooked some spaghetti, and somebody tried. It's the best. And my wife will say, "Oh, sweetheart," they say it's the best. I said, "It's the only spaghetti they tasted. How can they know it's the best?" It's only the best when they have tried other spaghettis. And then you know it's the best. But if you have tried so many things, and then you say this is the best, then there's a comparative analysis. You see? But it lacks sincerity. You know, this lunchtime, of course, as usual, we have people sharing food. Oh, this is my mom's cooking. Oh, this is my dad's cooking. Can you try? How is it? You know, the thing though is sometimes people give you something. How is it? They wait. How is it? Man, come on, get away from me. You know, let me analyze it a little bit. How is it? And you tried it. It's good. It's so good, I don't want to finish it. I'll keep it in the freezer, you know. Well, you say it's good because you're being polite. There is no sincerity. We are really, in this world, we are really trained to lie. It's an amazing thing that we are trained so much to lie. That's why we cannot improve each other. We cannot. What if I tell you, you told me to correct you, you've got such a bad breath. Would you please next time, before you talk to people, pop some mint? Milja, tsura mo lang. If I'm bad breath, you're badder breath, you know? You know what I'm saying? Then there is no sincerity. Then, if I am going to correct her, I could no longer correct her. Therefore, we cannot help each other improve if we don't have virtuous thoughts. A lot of these are just politeness. Second, whatever is honorable. Okay, so number one, the way you think should be whatever is true. Number two, whatever is honorable. The word in the Greek is a bit difficult to translate. It can be translated as noble, worthy. But there is intensity on this word. Whatever is true, whatever is honorable, with another flavor of intensity. So how do you make noble intense? Nobly intense, you know? Whatever is nobly intense. What you're saying is, because it's very noble, it deserves respect or it is dignified. When something is honorable, whatever is honorable, it is something that you can look up to as a model. Okay, how do you talk to your children about your spouses? You know, how do you think about your spouses? Okay, so here's your daughter. My daughter is here, so she will use a best illustration. And she, what bad qualities? She has bad qualities, you know. And so I am very angry with her. And I said, "You're just like your mama." What happened? You're just like your mama. Now, I remember your mama's mama. You are the same. And your mama's mama's mama. You came from the same tree. You're all the same. What happened? I made them ignoble. It's no longer something to look up to. On the reverse, you are teaching somebody something. And you say, why don't you look at that person? the way he acts, the way he behaves. You begin to focus and begin to think nobly. Now, Paul is saying, what should we be thinking about each other? Number one, whatever is true. Number two, whatever will make your witness better. That's what you mean by honorable. Because if I keep saying, do not follow him, what will happen to his witness? And that is basically what we are doing to each other. We are just wrecking and tearing each other apart. We don't think noble thoughts towards each other. Okay? And when we begin to process that, when you are thinking ill of somebody, you will behave differently and act differently. Therefore, when you think nobly of somebody, you are looking at someone that people will admire. I was watching a boxing match the other night. It's between a Mexican boxer and a Filipino boxer. The last name of the Filipino boxer is Casas. Have you heard of him? No. Now you just did. I told you. He's the IBF world champion in super lightweight, something like. Is there super lightweight? Yeah. He was on the ring. The guy moves like Manny Pacquiao. But listen to and his promoter is Manny Pacquiao. Listen to the announcer. This guy moves like Manny Pacquiao. Look at him duck. Look at him use his left hand for jab. Look at him use his right hand for jab and follow up with the left hook. That's Manny Pacquiao. That's vintage Manny Pacquiao. What did they just do? They are putting Manny Pacquiao up here so that people can look up to him and admire. Now this is exactly what Paul is saying, how we should be thinking towards each other. Now it may be difficult a lot of times. That's why it's a virtue. Remember the story that I told you about this neighbor everybody hates? And everybody will gather together and gossip. Oh, look at that. Look at the way he walks. Yeah, that's a beautiful car, but that's stolen. Look at they're just attacking this person all the time. But he has another neighbor, and they say, "Come on, join us." And they have a fault-finding session. And he will not say anything. He will not say anything negative. And the neighbors got upset with him because he refused. He's a virtuous man. He refused. Finally, the neighbor died. And they say, well, finally he died. You know? Maybe he can join us and attack this person. He's dead already. So, come here. Oh, finally he died, that bad guy. What do you say, huh? And he said, neighbors, did you notice while he was laying down on his casket? I never realized he's got a beautiful set of teeth. He still noticed something positive on the guy. That is a virtuous way of thinking. It is a discipline that all of us lack in. Because our very sinful nature dictates that we attack somebody. In the Filipino culture, or maybe I would say Asian culture, if not universal, there is what we call as crab mentality. Have you seen crabs? Do you guys buy live crabs? Have you noticed those crabs? Those are the most idiotic forms of food, you know. Why somebody is climbing, somebody will climb behind him. And some crabbing each other. Well, it's crab mentality, so let's come up with another verb. They are crabbing each other, you know. Thinking that when they crab each other, it's a bad word. Yeah. They will make it on top, but the weight, Because the claws of these crabs are so strong. You can pick up a crab and there will be 5 more. Have you done that? Therefore, you cannot admire that. But the way we have developed virtuous mind, number 1, can we discipline our minds that we will only think truthful things towards each other? Truthful things based on the Word, based on anticipations of God's transformation in your life, honorable things that will make you an example. Now, on the other application, if somebody is not worth following, then you don't think about those things. You think about those things that you can look up to and admire. Now that becomes very challenging, but very profitable. Why? When Jimmy Swaggart was discovered for having extramarital affairs, picking up prostitutes, etc., etc., the Christian world said, we do not know the number of people who backslid because of that. Why? Because the one they admire fell from grace. What if we begin to say, I will not fix my mind on those things, but I will fix my eyes on Jesus, and begin to learn from good examples. But the ultimate example is Jesus. That's why Paul said, follow me as I follow Christ. Our problem is, I don't know how many people have talked to me. I know this is wrong, but that's my friend. I'll follow anyways. You already know it's wrong. You already know it's not admirable. And you will still look up to and follow. The thinking process is wrong. A virtuous mind says, that is wrong. I will not look up to it. Third. So whatever is number 1. Number 2. Number 3, whatever is right. Now, right is a relational term. That could be translated just. Whatever is just. Have you used, how many of you here have used typewriters before? Okay. When you're typing, right? Your instructor will say, I want you to do it justified to the right. Right? So when you say justify to the right, everything aligns on the right side. When you say justify to the left, just on the left side. Or how do you call it both? I don't know, but justified. Meaning whatever happened, you will make it justified. That's why there are letters, you need to justify everything. So there are letters that has to be cut, but it will not look good. You will squeeze it. In the computers, you can see it in your computers because it's in the formatting menu now. The moment you format it like that, it will squeeze it or it will lengthen it. For what reason? To be justified. Just right. So you think what is right. So somebody is eating, and when he is eating, man, my goodness, you begin to see one subo after the other, and the noodles are coming out of the mouth. And so a wrong thinking, a negative thing will say, takaw talaga itong baboy na to. But maybe the justified way of thinking is, maybe he doesn't know how to eat right. Maybe he doesn't know that nobody's going to grab his food. Maybe he had not eaten in 10 days. You see, you are trying to justify finding the right way of thinking instead of finding negatives in everything. If you want to find negatives in everything, listen to political speeches today. Everything is just negative. I mean, if we have a legislation like this, look at the other party. On both sides of the party, they're just thinking negative all the time. both parties, the Republicans and the Democrats, they are both just thinking wrong. That's why they cannot come together. If the Republicans say something, all negatives from the Democrats. The Democrats say something, all negatives from the Republicans. That's the wrong way of thinking. They refuse to see what is right. You see? And that is the culture of the world that is penetrating the church. We do the same thing now. See, we look at each other, and all we can see is negative. Paul said, do not think like that. Whatever is right, think on these things. Next, number 1, true. Number 2, honorable. Number 3, number 4, pure. What is pure? This is a ritual term when you purify something for a sacrifice. It is something that is cleansed, fit for God's use. Therefore, undefiled or blameless. Okay, somebody wants to be used by the Lord. She said, I want to volunteer. I want to teach. What will you teach? She will say, I want to teach this subject. She's not qualified. Okay? The way I will think about that is, negatively or sinfully, I say, ang yabang. My goodness, she wants to preach. Ang yabang. Negative, right? But to think what is pure is say, oh, she wants to preach. Let's do this. Because she wants to preach, let me think of something on how she can improve on her delivery. On how she can improve on her message. What's happening? I am purifying her. You see? Instead of Islaming somebody right away, you think of ways that are pure. How can he fit this category? Again, it requires a virtuous mind to do that. Because most of the time we just tear down one another. But this is different. You are purifying somebody. You know, hey, I want to be a preacher. Yeah, but I'm thinking, look at you. You don't study. You don't live right. You're a drunkard. You're not qualified. All I can say, are you sure you want to be a preacher? So I can start opening the scriptures and say, hey, listen. These are the qualifications of a minister. Let's begin working on it. Okay? Let's begin working on it. James said at one day, well, Papa, I think I want to be a lawyer. He can't be a lawyer right now. You know, his vocabulary is not there. His mind processing is not there. So you begin to say, wow, that is so nice. You're very smart. You win debates. Let's do this. Why don't you read first? So we were in Barnes & Noble. Now, of course, I am conservative. My family has got to be conservative. That's just leadership, you know. So we were at Barnes & Noble, and he was going to buy a book. Then I saw this book written by Rush Limbaugh. Rush Limbaugh is really, really conservative. He's way out there, you know. You may not like him, but he's conservative. You may not like some of his, but he's conservative. He wrote on U.S. history for children. And so I said, hey, James, you want to know what the conservative is? Because he has been asking me, Papa, what is conservative, what is liberal? And I begin to explain to him a little bit, but I couldn't really explain to him that now it's a children's book. So I said, James, this is a conservative book. So there are 3 volumes. He bought them all and read them all. And after he read them all, I said, now, James, you know more about conservatism than most of your teachers in school. And I told James, you know more about conservatism more than most of the church members in the church. I said, what? I said, yeah. I said, those books sums up a lot of things about conservatism. Now, I'm not saying you can be a lawyer now. I'm beginning to hone the way he should think. I can't have my son thinking like a liberal or progressive. That's very unbiblical. I have to make him think Bible thoughts. You know, so I have to begin, and he will, Today, James will be asking me about political positions. Why are they angry like this? You know, like if you say, well, what are you? A conservative or a liberal? Well, it depends on your question. You know, morally, I'm very conservative. Socially, I have a lot of liberalism. Politically, I'm very independent. Now, in each of those statements, I know exactly what I'm talking about. But most people will say, I'm liberal or I'm conservative without knowing what they mean. Therefore, we can't improve on each other. You see? What we should be thinking when we say pure, how do we make each other be a better servant of the Lord? So number 1, true. Number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, lovely. This word lovely only appears here in the New Testament. It's not found anywhere else. Whatever is lovely, or meaning that which calls forth love, or that which is love-inspiring. Some people are lovely inside. You know how we say God looks on the heart, not on the outside? Well, because He's God. Okay? God doesn't look at us and say, fat, thin, or ugly, beautiful. God doesn't talk that language. That language is human language. Okay? The only thing fat that God talks about is what? Fat offering. You know? The one that you burn. Okay? But God doesn't talk, oh, there's a fat boy right there, or a thin boy right there, or an ugly boy right there, or a handsome boy. No. Why? Because the Bible already declares that after God created us, what did He say? It is good. Yeah. So whether you like it or not, you look good in the sight of God. Did you hear me? You see, you can't even accept it. But let me just say, you look good in the sight of God. Why is it that we look at people and say, ugly, pretty? That's our sinful mind, simple thoughts. Okay? Because we qualify things like that. But here, when you say lovely, it's not about physical appearance. It's that which inspires love, or that which causes people to love. There is a comic character decades ago that I have read, and I don't like it because of my sinful nature. And some of you old Filipinos will know this. It's about a nurse. What is the name? Bakekang. Did you guys remember that? Bakekang is an ugly, super ugly nurse. And you guys don't know. How will I liken Bakekang today? That will not be good thinking, you know. But Bakekang is just super ugly. She's a nurse, very smart, super ugly. And if I remember where there is this American GI, white, blonde hair, handsome, that got shot or something, that she has to take care of. And the first time he looked at her, I mean, he wants to die instead of being taken care of by this ugly-looking nurse. Oh, but this nurse has some of the best lovable qualities there is. The way she takes care of the patient, the way she takes care of him, finally he began to see the most lovely qualities that Bakekang has. He ended up marrying her against the objection of the whole world. When they got married, the theme song, "You and Me Against the World, Baby." You know? What happened? What happened is he began to think of those things that are lovely. maybe in your literature class, you have read Cyrano de Bergerac. You never read that? Yeah, long nose, ugly, right? But what is his admirable, lovely quality? He can write. And so here's this young man who fall in love with this young lady, and he doesn't know how to write. So Mr. Bergerac began to help him write. I mean, the loveliest love letter. I mean, you guys took it in high school, right? You're absent, okay. So he began to help him. And the lady, this beautiful young lady, fell in love with the love letters. And she was just imagining that this is such a handsome young man. Well, he saw him. He's really a handsome young man. But he's not the one who writes the letter. Until she finds out, and at the end, before Cyrano died, she truly fell in love with him because she saw the lovely qualities of this man. Now, this transcends carnality. When you can begin to look at a person and find the most lovely qualities. Now, on the application side, if we are thinking right about ourselves and about others, because you can apply this in both ways. If you can help people focus on your lovely qualities. Because each of us have Jesus in our inside. And there are lovely qualities that we have. But sometimes what we highlight are bad qualities. Yeah. DJ from time to time will tell me, oh, I love Kuya. Yeah. And she will tell me, Kuya is my best friend. And she will tell me, after you, Papa. But you know the problem with Joseph in front of DJ? He's bad in this sense. He highlights his most unlovely qualities. Yeah. DJ will call me, Papa, do you need something from the store? And I say, well, get me some food. And DJ will say, Kuya, can I have this? BAM! And he will just hang up. Or he will tell DJ, you shut up, DJ. You're not part of this conversation. That's how bad. Sometimes you want to knock his head off. You know? You have no right to talk to me, DJ. He will say that. And then DJ will be quiet. Oh, you know. And then Joseph will come. And he will have something stashed on the side. And he will tell me, be quiet. Oh, he will buy the favorite smoothie of DJ. He will buy the food that she wants because he already knew it. And DJ will take it and say, I'm telling you, Papa, Kuya loves me. But the problem there, he is displaying his most unlovely qualities. You know. Now, because of our witness, what the Bible is actually saying, if you will help others think lovely thoughts about you, then you have to start displaying your lovely qualities. You know, instead of being annoying, you know that this person is annoyed with you because of your unlovely qualities, the more you highlight it. Look at that guy eat. And because you heard that when you're eating with him, get me some. Stop that. You know. Well, what are you doing? You are highlighting your most unlovely qualities. You know, in Tagalog, we have a term for that. Kaunting pino. You know, kaunting pino. And this is when we begin to help each other. Yeah. So when people, I was I was going back to earlier when people tell you, oh, you can tell me whatever you want to tell. Sometimes it's a bunch of lies. Because you begin to tell them how to help them improve, the more they will highlight the negative. The more they will highlight what is most unadmirable. We really have to work on this because we have to help each other think good about each other. Number 6. Good repute. So, in Lovely, you make yourself amiable. You make yourself attractive. Instead of disqualifying everybody, begin to purify everybody. You know, somebody says, well, I really believe God wants me to sing. But the moment the guy opens his mouth, the carabaos run away, you know. Well, you purify him. Well, brother, I believe in the voice of the Lord. First, let's have a throat transplant, okay? You begin to suggest how to purify the person. Or maybe hone down the desires. Instead of knocking each other out. That's why this is a virtue. Good repute. Whatever is excellent. We already discussed this morning. Growing towards maturity. Think thoughts that are excellent means you think on how to make each other excel, you mature, you develop. You're good in this area, keep getting better. Then in that sense, you keep improving each other. Because look, all of us here have our negativities, our pitfalls, our mistakes, all of that. What we need is to agree that our way is all moving up. Because we really improve on each other. You know? Excellent. And then whatever is praiseworthy, because you do all of these things, it will bring worship to God. Amen. And then Paul said this, on the last part of this. So Paul said, what you heard from me, what you learned, what you have seen, do these things. So first, virtuous thinking. Second, virtuous learning. Okay? Some are good students, but poor practitioners. Oh, we need to excel in this area. We need to learn and apply. No doubt the Philippians learned a lot from Paul. I mean, Paul is your pastor, Paul is your teacher, the one who wrote 3/4 of the New Testament or 2/3, something like that. I mean, ridiculously rich theology. That is their pastor. Okay? But then some of the churches that he pastored includes Corinthians and Galatians fell on the side. Why? Because they are good listeners, bad practitioners. Some people think for as long as you can attend and learn, that completes it. No. Us opening the scriptures, us studying the Word of God together is half, if not 1/4. Okay? When I was in engineering school, one of our professors said, when you begin to become electrical engineers, don't be discouraged if you blow a transformer. He said, you blow up one transformer, it's okay. Pay for it, but it's okay. He said, you blow up 2 transformers, maybe you need to change of career. And he began to tell the story. He's a mechanical engineer, and he said he was in charge of this welding group, these acetylene tanks, and there was a fire that broke out. It was his mistake. I think a couple of acetylene tanks were left open, it caused a fire. And he said, he knew that one acetylene tank is going to explode. He said, I open it. But everybody was already evacuating. And he said, this is my mistake. So he ran back to where the acetylene tank, and he said, I have no gloves. He said, I handled the valve and closed it. He said, it burned me, and he showed us, look at this scar, and his hand is full of scar. He said, look at this hand. Fire broke out. He was able to close the acetylene tank. What happened to him? Hospitalized. So he said in the hospital bed, his supervisor, another mechanical engineer, approached him and say, well, how are you doing? And he said to the supervisor, oh, sir, I'm very sorry. This is what happened. And he told the story. He said, it was my mistake. It was, I totally overlooked this. And said, but I went back when everybody was evacuating because there could be more problem. He said, went back, I have no gloves, sir, and I closed the acetylene tank valve. And he said, the supervisor laughed at him and said, so now what? He said, oh, I will understand if you will fire me. And the supervisor says, no, I will not fire you because you just learned one of the most valuable lessons in the workplace. So I could not lose you. But he said, don't blow it again. He said, the moment you're healthy, you're back at work. Did not fire him. He learned a valuable lesson. Okay? What is the meaning? What is the meaning of that? He was the one who told us, the moment you finish engineering, that's 1/4 of your learning. He said, the other 3/4 will come the moment you are in the field. You will begin to learn, and he said, you will begin to recall the principles that you learn in school. You will open textbooks and verify things because you're in the field. He said, but learn how to apply. He said, the moment you're in the field, you will be tempted to do this and to do that. You look at the manual, don't do that. No shortcuts. He said, don't tweak it. He said, there are certain things you can modify, but said, don't tweak it. Because the principles of physics are the principles of physics. You just have to believe it. What do I mean? We have this set of learning. Then we go to the field. We don't know how to apply it. What we do is we tweak and tweak and tweak until it doesn't look like what we have learned anymore. That becomes problematic. And so, the Philippians are not only who take into account the virtues that we have discussed earlier. You know, whatever is true, whatever is lovely. Now, they have to learn the virtue of making sure that you are bent on applying what you are learning. The verbs to consider will be learned, received, heard, seen. 4 verbs. Whatever you have learned from me, whatever you have received from me, whatever you have heard, whatever you have seen. Now these are things that came together. Now the conjunction is and. I explained this to you already. Learned and received and heard and seen. If you recall, when the conjunction and is used in a series like that, how should it be translated the next time? The first occurrence, you translate and. What about the second time? What? The next time you translate as also. Yeah, also. So what you have learned also received. Also. Meaning they come together. When you begin to learn something, don't only learn it, receive it. Okay? Observe it. Observe it. Now this is, I think, most of our faults come from. Because we admire certain people, we ignore what we see. We just ignore what we see. We hate certain people. We ignore what we see. You know, we just ignore. Real learning includes hearing, seeing, listening, receiving. That's the totality. Simple. You have heard that this is such, there is a dentist that my wife likes. Supposedly one of the best dentists. And James what does he need, Anne? He needs, no, before extraction. Oh, he needs braces. He was 12 years old then, right? He needs braces because his teeth are dancing. And the dentist says, How many teeth? Four, three. Four teeth needs to be extracted. And how do you call those teeth? Third molars. Well, if there are three, third, fourth, and fifth. First molar. And the doctor, the dentist says, to put the braces, you have to put these molars out. James is very young, you know. So they say, well, we have to put him to sleep. Whoa. You remember the dentist here? The story, a black girl, when her dentist put her to sleep. What happened? She never woke up. I said, I'm not going to have James put to sleep. Let him endure pain, but I'm not going to have him put to sleep. Because I remember this black little girl put her on a dentist. Remember the story? And she never woke up. And the analysis says, you don't put to sleep a young person like that. But then she brought her to another dentist for secondary opinion. And he really likes this first doctor. And he said, well, why not do the following things? So she went back to the doctor, and the doctor changed his mind. Yeah, wrong teeth to be extracted. A new set of teeth has to be extracted. So she went back to another dentist. The dentist says, you know what? I think it's a Filipino. I think what your son needs is an expander. She began to show her an example of a twin. One, at a young age, those molars will remove. He began to develop some abnormalities when he grew up. It turned out those molars at a certain age, when they remove it from you, the moment you grow up, you need them. And so I went to Anne after this third back and forth. I said, Anne, I think you just admire this dentist so much. I think she's not a good dentist. I think you need to replace him. Find another dentist. Why? Because she admires the way he operates. It can blind you. That negatives can show up, mistakes upon mistakes can be showing up, and you're blinded because you admire this person so much. Or you can hate a person so much, even if they do something good, nothing good comes out of this person. You see? That's why in learning, it includes hearing, receiving, observing. Okay, here comes this leader, this preacher. Oh, you have to discipline your family, you have to do this. Well, you look at him, none of his family members are disciplined. Why will you learn from that person? He cannot practice it. So that means I will listen to him in other areas, but not on other areas. Because he's not a good practitioner. I cannot follow his example. Therefore, I have to look at other people. For example, I told you when I was beginning to raise my kids, that was my dilemma. Everybody knows how to raise their kids. But I look at their kids, man, the way they behave in the church, they were growing up to become teenagers, the way they behave. I said, the teachings are good, but I said it doesn't make sense. So I just backed off. I begin to receive the good teachings and begin to keep asking God, what do I do? Like if you can't finish school, please don't open your mouth and teach me how to finish school because you don't know. You know, it becomes very funny. What you need is hearing, seeing, observing. In that sense, there is, the moment you go into that, this is the beauty of this. You will have no single example. Instead, what you will begin to see is each of us, we can learn something from each other, but we really need each other, all of us, to have total learning. And there will only one supermodel that will come out. Jesus Christ. I mean, you look at this political, I don't care if Trump can remove your taxes. The left will attack him, blindsided. I don't care if Obama did something good for the Americans. The right will attack him. It's like that. I mean, it is just like that. Because they're not good learners. Learning involves watching. I mean, you look at this. I mean, the Democrats have good sides. They're after social justice. They're after what is good for society. You know, positive. The Republicans have some positive tones also. I like lower taxes. I like business to grow. I don't like jobs to be outsourced elsewhere. I mean, you have to remember it's the Bush, the second Bush, who finalized the opening of China to WTO. The moment the second Bush welcomed China to World Trade Organization, China just infiltrated every sector of business. It was a Republican who did that. You see? And now it's another Republican who's trying to say, let's play fair. So there is a positive and negative on both sides. Our problem is when we begin to focus on one issue and begin to say, whatever that person say is right. There is nothing wrong that's coming. Then that is wrong. You see? Because virtuous learning is actually the ability to take both sides of the coin. What are the positives and the negatives? You know, marriage is like that. You will never find a perfect spouse. That's why when I'm counseling, the ultimate question is knowing all the positives and the negatives. I will tell the couple, you know all your partner's idiosyncrasies. Question is, can you live with those idiosyncrasies? And the couple will think. They'll say, well, you know, if they improve here and there. So they're not ready to answer yes. But I have the second question. Knowing all the positives and negatives, can you live without that person? And if they say, well, you know, I really love that person, I can't live without that person, then let's remedy the idiosyncrasies. But the fact of the matter is there's no perfect union. There are plus and minuses. That's why you have to think of what is pure, what is lovely, what is honest, and just begin to improve each other. But the moment you are not a virtuous learner, you are blinded, oh, you will never really learn. There's, who's this? Pastor Gino went to my library at one time and he saw my books. He said, what? He told me, what? You buy those books? I have some of the most liberal books in the world of theology. I have some books that my old teachers will say, why did you buy those? I bought those. By the way, I not only buy them, I read them. How in the world am I going to understand them if I don't read them? So you listen to the opinions of both sides. And you begin to see the positive and negative points. And you begin to process them. Bible is your basis. The problem is when we are close-minded. If you are close-minded, you will never learn. You know, the statement, I was born a Catholic, I will die a Catholic. Well, truly you will. You know, truly you will. By the way, the Catholics are not the only ones saying that. I had a neighbor that we witnessed to from time to time, but seems to be just off. But every time he asks me for a favor, I will always help him. I will always do some favor for him. Well, they left. He needs some tools, which I have. So he called me up and said, Jose, can I borrow some tools? I said, sure. I said, I'm not in the house right now. I will be leaving. I said, I'll take it with me. See me in my office. And he looked in here. And he said, Jose, what do you do here? I said, I'm the pastor here. He said, what group is this? I said, well, this is independent church. This is Pentecostal charismatic. He said, Pentecostal? I said, yeah. He said, that's the only religion I have ever known in my entire life. I said, what? I am Pentecostal. He doesn't look like one. I mean, he lives like the devil, you know. He's a Pentecostal demon or something. But the only religion that I have, he's already living ungodly life, and he says, I'm still Pentecostal. You see? My wife and I know somebody from marriage and found out that I always go to the Gupan, and he said, I am Assemblies of God. I said, what? He doesn't look like Assemblies of God. But he said, I grew up all my life Assemblies of God. You'll be surprised. You see? That's why somebody can't introduce himself to you and say, well, I'm Pentecostal, and say, oh, Pentecostal, he believes in. Not necessarily. You've got to listen to the person. You have to observe the way they live. Watch what comes out of their lips. How do they live? How do they conduct their life? What's their family? Paul puts it this way. He said, watch my teaching, listen to my teachings, watch my life. And that is where we are blind at. We listen, we don't care about their lives. We watch their lives. Then when you do this, you will have no single human model. I have none. No single. Why? Because we have mistakes, all of us. I admire this preacher. So my favorite pastor when he was alive is John Austin. But I'll tell you this, I don't like certain things about how he groomed his staff, how he raised his church. Certain things I don't like. But he's not my ultimate model. Jesus is. Certain things I admire about Jimmy Swaggart, of all people. You wanna watch somebody preach, the one who used pause perfectly? That's Jimmy Swaggart. There are certain things I don't like about the guy, the way he lived. I mean, you look at Jim Baker, fell from grace also, is back now. Who is this? He was working for Pat Robertson at one time, and they were losing money. They were going to turn the switch off. There is no more money for 700 Club. And the staff were wondering, man, are we going to work tomorrow? There's no money coming. Now, during that time, Jim Baker was in charge of the children's section of 700 Club. While they were raising money, Jim Baker, without asking for permission, because he really loved 700 Club, without asking permission, went in front of the camera and began to appeal. And the typical Jim Baker, he was very young. He was crying, he was weeping in front of television camera, and he said to the people, please, we believe this is what God told us. We just want to follow God's will. But we don't have the resources. We don't have the money. We're going to switch off tomorrow. He said, that was a true story. And the phone started ringing. The money started pouring. 700 Club was saved. But he had a lot of flaws. That's why the beauty of this, ultimately, if we are good learners, the ultimate model to have is Jesus Christ. We certainly will learn from each other. But all of us here have negative attributes. In those areas, whatever is true, whatever is lovely, whatever is just, honest, good report, excellent, praiseworthy, think on these things. And we will begin to purify each other and improve each other and continue to mature in the faith. Amen?